It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, new cordless tools for your shop, chaining cars to trees in London to prevent theft, the Premier drives a Land Rover across Newfoundland, and some workshop updates. And now, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today.
I'm the rumbling drive shaft to Steven's 13-speaker Meridian sound system. I am the brown note of podcasting, Ike Goss.
I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, this week in new tool news, our friends over at the DeWalt Tool Company, known for being 20% more expensive than every other tool, but it's too late because I'm already locked in there, have come out with a couple of tools that are particularly interesting to the Land Rover enthusiast, as pop riveting is something that I don't know if you spend some time doing, but we certainly do down here. And, you know, we use an air pop riveter, which is fine, very effective and useful and, gets the job done very well. But sometimes you find, yourself in a hard to reach place, and the air cylinder on the bottom of the pop rivet gun, sometimes hard to get into places, and sometimes the air hose, difficult to get in, or you need to just run down the street and quickly pop rivet something back together for someone who has maybe lost a fairing, or, a capping has come loose or something like that. Well, you're in luck.
So, yeah, you're in luck because now your handle and battery pack can be in the way because DeWalt have just released their 18-volt pop riveting.
20 volt max.
20 volts.
Oh, yeah.
My bad.
Oh, yeah. Not min, but max. Not
max.
Like, oh, yeah. No, it's I don't know what makes it max versus just regular. But yeah, it's the...
That's actually a good question for you.
I don't know. I just buy it. I don't even know.
What does make it max?
I don't even know. But they've got a 3/16 shank and a 1/4-inch shank. I don't know where you're using 1/4-inch shank rivets. I guess that's some major industrial shit there. But anyways.
Well, I guess, are they talking, when they say shank, maybe they're not talking about the mandrel of the rivet, but rather the diameter of the rivet itself.
It's got to be, right? Because 1/4-inch, it's a big rivet. That's a big rivet. That is a big rivet. Massive rivet. And so obviously the pull power behind that would need to be pretty significant. But for us, the 3/16 rivet, which is the common rivet for us, that tool is actually pretty nice. They did a pretty nice job. It's got a little catch can at the back of it, and it's got an interchangeable set of mandrel faces, so you can get all your different nose pieces on there, all the way from 3/32 all the way up to 3/16. So everything that you would need for your Land Rovering needs, 3/32, 1/8, 5/32, and 3/16. Plus it has replaceable jaws. It has all those sort of things that you would need for a tool that is obviously fairly high end, and comes with a couple of batteries and charger, or comes as a bare tool if you already have all those batteries and chargers and all that sort of things. The bare tool itself, $259 is this sort of like market price. Of course, I think DeWalt says it's like $900 or something insane. They always like the price they quote on their website is always like 5 times more than you can find it on like Amazon or something. But
yeah, Granger has it for $1,200 right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can get it on Amazon for very little, and it's available now. You can go to Home Depot if you want, or Amazon, and buy it now and get riveting, the whole package, if you want to buy batteries and everything. If this is the first DeWalt tool you're going to buy, is $369, and the package with just the raw tool itself is $259. You can get yourself riveting away. That's, if you're so inclined, DeWalt tool number DCF43B. And if you wanted to get that 1/4-inch one, I don't know what you want that for, but it's $675 for the bare tool. And you could 1/4-inch rivet up a storm. You could put a battleship together or whatever. I don't know.
Says you get 300 rivets per battery charge. So
Pretty
you
good.
could do like, it would probably take you what, 20, 30 battery charges to do a Land Rover.
That's right, exactly.
like
Yeah,
that.
you're going to need a lot of batteries. You're probably going to want to buy a few more to do a full Land Rover for sure.
Just one sun sheet is 9,000 rivets.
9,000 rivets. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no, it's, I'm baked into the DeWalt ecosystem. Makita has had a nice rivet gun for a while, battery powered rivet gun for a while. I think there's a couple of other brands that have a rivet gun, a 360.
I think they must all have them. Milwaukee has the riveter. I'm just looking now because
Milwaukee
I have
has one.
some
Yeah,
Milwaukee stuff.
yeah,
And they have a similar, couple different sizes actually. So they have a fuel 1/4-inch blind rivet tool with one key exchange of the rivet faces.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
they have another one that's more upright.
Yeah.
That's a 12, I guess. But yeah, they have a few different ones
Yeah.
too. So get riveting. You have no excuses now.
You have no excuses. Yeah. And although, I still like an air riveter, I think that it's interesting. More and more, the world of air tools is being replaced by cordless electric because especially the lithium batteried tools are they're a little bit easier. You don't have to run airlines all over your shop and all that sort of stuff. So I think especially as new folks are coming in who don't have shops with airlines everywhere, or, people who are working at home that just don't have the ability to have a big compressor and things like that, they're running all over. And another tool, and we forgot to talk about this. I completely forgot. I can't believe it. I completely forgot. This is something that you're going to love. You're going to absolutely. This is a surprise. No, this isn't the hammer. We were talking before. I swear to God, I saw that they have a 20-volt hammer. I'm pretty sure they have a 20-volt hammer, but I guess I'm
and not like
mistaken.
not like a small jackhammer or a hammer drill, but just a hammer with a battery in the handle.
I mean,
Is that
well,
what you
no,
described it
it's
as?
an automatic hammer. I thought I saw this. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Describe it.
Well, okay, so it's like a handle. You put a battery in the bottom, and it's like a therapy gun. Where the little hammer part goes back and forth on the top. I'm sure of it. I told Liza about it. I'm pretty sure that it actually happened, but I just texted it to you. But it is a DeWalt 20-volt cordless band file. And of course, this is a favorite of Ike's, the miniature band files. This is a sort of equivalent to a little mini belt sanders that you would use in welding and things like that.
I'm a Dynaphile man.
Yeah, this is a Dynabraid kind of a device. If you're all electric and maybe you're not quite ready to make the investment in a Dynabraid tool, get a Dynaphile or something like that. This is sort of a Dynaphile equivalent. So it's a band file style tool.
Nothing's equivalent to a Dynaphile.
Nothing is equivalent. It's true. I have several Dynabraid files, different sizes and things. And this is actually funny because, DeWalt makes this little sort of what is somewhere between a cutoff wheel and a little tiny handheld, almost like a saw. And it's really great for cutting sheet metal. And because it holds the cutoff wheel, instead of holding it sideways to your hand, it holds it a little bit more like it's a tiny, tiny little circular saw, which is really, really nice for cutting big sheets, like big sheets of aluminum and stuff with a little cutoff wheel. And there was a bunch of people that were making little belt file adapters for that. So you would take the side off and you'd put a little belt file adapter on it. And actually it was adapted from a Dynaphile, carriage, and you would just essentially bolt it onto the side. And DeWalt was like, oh, no. We're going to make our own and just destroy that market. Yeah, we'll just destroy that market. So essentially this is that tool. And it's pretty cool. Again, it's one of those things where if for some reason you don't want to spend the money on the actual air tool, which in this case is much better because I'm sure it's significantly higher RPM. And in the case of a little sander like this, the higher the RPM, the better. But this does take the standard length belts and everything, and it might be a nice addition to your already existing Dynaphile collection, and uses the same belts and stuff. So kind of cool. But yeah, that just came out as well. That is DeWalt tool number DCM 200B. And
costs on broken dreams.
Yeah, $200, $207, and you can have yourself a little junior Dynaphile, so you can get a sense of what those things are like, and then go get yourself a real one. Go spend $600-700 on a real Dynabrade air tool, and it'll last
So worth it.
100,000 years, which this one will definitely not. They definitely don't last that long. You drop it.
Last American-made air tool company.
It's true.
Dynabrade.
Dynabrade, yeah. They make everything.
Last one. Nobody else.
Little
Nobody
drills.
else. Ingersoll Rand, gone. Snap-on, made somewhere else.
Yeah,
Gone.
they're made
all
overseas
gone.
now. Actually, a lot of the
Porter
Snap-on stuff is made in Indonesia, which is interesting.
The air tools, I believe, are. Yeah.
Yeah, are they known? Is Indonesia known for their air tool manufacturing? Like, is that a good place to make?
They are
tools?
now. You know them for that. So yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of interesting. Well, speaking of Indonesia, if you're gonna steal a car in London and ship it to Indonesia, it's become a little bit more difficult as the constant battle between Land Rover owners and the folks trying to steal them and ship them overseas has been ratcheted up, as in recent months, Land Rover owners have started chaining their vehicles to trees and fences and whatever they can get their hands on to try to prevent their vehicles from being stolen and shipped overseas. This is the latest escalation in an ongoing war with theft in central London of specifically Land Rover vehicles. And yeah, I mean, hey, it's really getting intense.
What can you say? They're desirable.
Mm-hmm. It makes our catalytic converter theft really like not look like such a big deal now, you know?
I just have vehicles that are too old for catalysts.
Yes, you don't even have to worry about it. Yeah.
It's easy.
I leave the keys in my cars. I mean, if anybody can steal them, they deserve them, you know?
We should do a segment on the podcast. How long can I leave the keys in my Freelander before it gets stolen?
Before it gets stolen. Yeah.
That's we could take bets on that.
It was once stolen for an hour and then returned. You know,
with a second one in tow.
Second one in tow. Yeah, yeah. No, it didn't make it very far. They it broke down.
One time, Steven drove his Freelander to like a not so great area of town, and he went into a store and not realizing it, he left the keys in the Freelander. And when he came out, there was a second Freelander parked next to his with a sign that says, "Please take this."
Please take this. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Other cars had been cleared out around the Freelander. Yeah, it was amazing. It's a great theft deterrent. Actually, you know, nobody wants to get anywhere near it except for Nick Dimbleby, who loved that car. To be fair, you know, Bishop wouldn't go anywhere near it. You know, he looked at it side-eyedly, but he wouldn't drive it. But
yeah, I don't blame him.
Dimbleby loved it. I don't blame him. He was so giddy driving that car around. I can't tell you. I haven't seen him that happy in a long time. You know, he was in love with that car. Speaking of special cars pre-2004, of which the Freelander, of course, is beautiful 2003, the finest vintage, in my opinion, of Freelander. Cooper Murray, our good friend out there in Martha's Vineyard, had the big Vineyard Rovers, a series, which is a fantastic event. One of these days, if it wasn't literally as far away from here as like something can be, I've always wanted to get out there. They do these great like themed things, like they get all the green defenders together. They do all these really neat sort of things out there. And of course, you know, Cooper's photography is fantastic. And, you know, the event itself is a really neat gathering. And of course, Jeff Aronson and all of our friends from the East Coast are always in attendance. And, you know, what a great event that is. And it took place again just recently, and some neat cars out there.
Yeah, he's getting some good numbers at those events, and a lot of people out there having fun and checking out special cars and neat stuff. So, yeah, if you're in the area, check it out sometime. I think they have an Instagram Vineyard series or something like that.
Their
old Instagram.
Their Monster Trucky Series 1, which is a very famous Series 1. Which
Brodozer,
the Brodozer, which I like it very much, actually. You know, of all the Monster Trucky Land Rovers, that one is certainly my favorite. I like that one very much. It's a well done car. It's well put together, neat looking. You know,
I saw that car before it became what it is now, and it was a very cool 80-inch, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna break with you on this one. I think the 80-inch was actually cooler.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was better the way it was, but you know,
it was a really cool, pretty early car.
Yeah, it's a shame. Cooper
Such is
Murray.
life.
Shame on you.
But it lives on.
Shame
it
on
lives
you.
on. Actually, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Somebody else did it. And
Shame on that
then
person.
it
Shame on that person.
changed a few hints. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
it was
No, it's
cool.
fine.
It
It is
was
neat.
cool.
It is a neat car. I actually like it. It's very iconic. It's a cool looking car, and if you're gonna
It's
do
got
that,
yellow wheels.
At least
I know
it
how
came
you
out.
like yellow wheels.
I do love yellow wheels. I love yellow cars. I'm a big fan of yellow Land Rovers.
They have
best.
their merits for sure.
Yeah, they are. They're a neat car.
So I believe there's some sort of Canadian news item in the
This
Land
is
Rover world.
Big news.
Yeah.
Big Canadian news.
Tell me about this.
Well,
Tell me about
in the world of Canadian Land Rovering, there are not a ton of Canadian Land Rover expeditions. And, one of
Not true.
well, that's true. There are actually a few. That's right. But there none more famous than one I didn't know about until earlier today. And that is, of course, when the premier of the great province of Newfoundland, a gentleman named none other than Joey Smallwood, unfortunately named Joey Smallwood.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, traversed the first vehicle crossing of Newfoundland with none other than a 58 Series 288, which I didn't know. I didn't know that was the first vehicle to cross Newfoundland. And I didn't know that the premier of Newfoundland was the first person to cross Newfoundland in a vehicle. I wonder if that's why they made him premier. They're like, well, this guy crossed the whole province, so now he gets to be premier. That's how it works. I know very little about this story. I want to go do some research. I'm gonna do a special expose on this. I'm gonna do the hard work. I'm gonna put in the hours, and I'm gonna find out everything I can about Joey Smallwood and find out why it was that he decided to cross Newfoundland at all. If that's what made him premier, if he was premier before, if he was trying to get away from somebody, if Newfoundland is just so boring that was the only thing to do at the time. All those things are probably true. But anyways, all that aside, recently, this 88-inch Series 2 was restored and has just been shown off at an event there up in Canada. And it's pretty cool, to have the original
Interesting.
vehicle and restored and looking good. And then, and this is my favorite thing to do with restored vehicles, they recreated the Smallwood expedition, if you will, and crossed Newfoundland with Joey Smallwood's Series 2, newly restored and ready to rock and roll across Her Majesty's Newfoundland.
Early spec, yeah, it's a 58, and from the article it says that this was just a governmental vehicle, so he must have just
grabbed one from the yard, and he's like,
Yeah,
you know what?
like, I'm gonna go check out this place that I'm in charge of.
Yeah, he's like, I've never seen the other side of the island, so I'm gonna go ahead and just head over there, just see what's going on. I imagine he listened to Great Big Sea the entire way there and back, and that Log Rider, watched the Log Rider cartoon a couple times, I imagine, and all the Newfoundland stuff. Did all that.
Yeah,
thing.
there's actually a Land Rover here in town that's been sitting since 1980. It's a shortwave station wagon, and the owner is unwilling to sell it because he has fond memories of his trip across Newfoundland.
There you go. His name, coincidentally, Joey Bigwood. So,
wow,
yeah,
didn't know that.
Small world. But yeah,
this one that they restored is an interesting spec. It's got the sun sheet, but on a standard roof.
Oh,
that
cool.
was an unusual.
The
option.
cool roof spec.
The cool roof.
Yeah.
No rear windows though.
No rear. So it's the bus style, the van style. Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
So it was like a government, just like a utility van that he's like, listen, Joey Smallwood's like, I'm the premier. I can do whatever I want. Give me one of these trucks. I'm going to go for a boot here. I'm going to take her out for a rip and head across Newfoundland. And I'll let you guys know when I get to the other side. And it's going to be great. I assume this happened sometime in the 50s because it's a 58 car. Late 50s.
Yeah, it doesn't quite say really when that took place.
It's interesting that no one had crossed Newfoundland by vehicle until 1958.
I mean,
yeah,
maybe it was a first official crossing.
Yeah, well,
you know how that
I
goes.
imagine that people have gone around the exterior of Newfoundland a lot, and by boat, I'm sure that happened all the time, right? I mean, you encircle it by boat constantly, but I imagine to go over the interior of Newfoundland would not be easy. In fact, I want to say just recently they've finished a proper nice road from one side to the other, and I know for a fact that just recently they've added electric car charging all the way across that road. So you can charge every 100 miles along that road from one side of Newfoundland to the other, which I think is pretty cool. You can now, I say, we take this vehicle and we forcefully electrify it and we go across the island with it electrified.
I'm not sure. The darkest wilds of Newfoundland with an electric Land Rover. I think Newfoundland has like a pretty big network
They
of
do every 100
of
miles.
electric chargers.
Every 100 miles.
Every 100 miles.
Yeah, on that road. And you got to be careful because if you get off that main road, there's absolutely nothing. And there's the wild Newfoundlanders that are inland there. So you gotta be very careful.
The hill people of Newfoundland.
They're like Ewoks. You got to be very careful.
They look like the synonymous.
You know,
dogs.
you think about it. When you think about it,
Yeah.
you know, the fact that the Ewoks had a dress that fit Princess Leia means that they ate someone that was about the size of Princess Leia previously. Right?
Maybe.
How else would they have had that dress? Where did that dress come from if that wasn't the
You
case?
just found it in the woods.
Right? I don't know. I think that's wishful thinking.
You know?
I think that's wishful thinking.
Some stormtrooper was changing into their outfit and just left it out there in the woods, and they found it.
I don't know. I feel like they probably ate some lady that was Princess Leia.
I mean, weren't they in the process of cooking them?
Yeah, they were going to cook them until C-3PO pretended to be a god.
Yeah.
Right? They were going to cook them. They were going to eat them. That's what they do.
This is not their first rodeo.
No, exactly. No, they're cannibal. They're little cannibal bears. Well, I mean, they weren't eating each other, so they're just carnivorous bears. I mean, bears are carnivorous. That's how it goes. Even tiny teddy bear ones.
Are Ewoks bears?
I don't
Discuss.
know. Well, they're like space bears, right? Tiny
space bears,
space teddy bears.
You ever see the holiday special?
I have, unfortunately. Yes.
It describes the history of actually it's Wookiees. It's Wookiees. Same thing. They're just bigger.
It's all the same thing. Yeah, they're
bears.
They're like the larva state of Wookiees. Is that what you're saying? Ewoks.
They pupate and then they just like turn into a Wookiee.
They shed their.
We're off the rails.
Yeah,
we're off the rails.
Wow.
You know, we should do a deep dive on the Land Rovers used for the Star Wars.
Oh yeah. The Tunisian Land Rovers. Yeah. Man, I would love to, again, I would love to get a hold of some of those Land Rovers. Oh, coincidentally, an update on that. So as Mike Bishop mentioned last couple of episodes ago, the Land Rover Freelander G4 edition that we were chasing in Calgary, a listener did get back to me with a G4 Freelander. It's a Freelander, an edition car that is in Calgary that he saw at an event, at a car show in Calgary. I'm not sure that it was the one that Liza and I were chasing necessarily, but this has already yielded some fruit. So thanks for coming back with those photos. We're hot on the trail of seeing if we can get in contact with that individual, because that would just be a neat story to figure out where he came in contact with that car and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of neat. So we're still hot on the trail of that particular vehicle, but yeah, so that has bared some fruit. Tiny space bared some fruit.
Born.
Yeah, it's great. Come on.
So what's happening in your workshop?
Well,
what's going on there?
Speaking of, we've got we've just procured the new forklift. So we're in the process of doing some electrical.
We're lifting things.
We're lifting. Everything is a forklift job now. Well, we are catching up on a lot of forklift jobs, but we are doing some wiring to get the 3-phase charger for the forklift put in. And we're also building a little differential cup that we can mount to the forklift so that we can pick the cars up by their front differentials and move them around a little bit. Because, being able to do that for us is a huge benefit because of the tight stacking nature of the workshop here. So being able to do a little bit of that is going to be very, very helpful. So far as organizing and reorganizing cars is concerned, we've got a fuel.
Tell me about that.
Well, so
that was Michael Bishop was talking about this when he was here.
That's right.
And he mentioned that, some point during Defender production, they had these forklift extensions with like a support that would kind of cradle the undercarriage.
That's right, if you will,
of the Defender for an axle.
It would cup. It would cup the differential, if you will,
gently cup the differential.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is that this is what you're making, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So as Michael describes it, yeah, it's essentially a steel sort of
You seen a
bowl.
picture of this?
He doesn't have a picture. No, he's described it in detail to me, but
Maybe Dimbleby has a
I
picture.
bet he does. But it's a steel bowl that essentially conforms to the shape of the differential. The difference with ours is we've decided to make it a split because our forklift has hydraulically adjustable forks. So our forks can
Oh,
come in
that's
and
cool.
it's super cool.
That's a
Except
really cool thing.
that those forks have 3,000 pounds of force when they're adjustable. So we can just crush things with them, which actually I've been doing quite a bit. It's pretty fun to take a pallet and just like explode it with the forks. When I go to, because we recycle the old shitty pallets. We'll break them apart and put them into the wood recycling. And it's pretty fun to
I'm very
take them and
jealous.
just go explode. But
I'm very jealous of that.
so what
That's a cool feature.
we're gonna do a split ball so that we can go into either side of the axle and then grab around the differential with the ball and pick it up and move it. So we're gonna build
So
that.
here's a question.
Yeah.
So having moved a lot of Land Rovers with forklifts,
Mhm.
if you have two attachment points like you're describing,
Mhm.
then when you move the forklift, since the axles are rigidly mounted
Yeah.
into the vehicle,
Yeah.
when you steer the forklift, you're like relying on the back of the car to sort of turn.
Yeah.
Right. If you made it so that it mounted in a single point with a bearing on it, for example,
Mhm.
then you could pivot the entire car by the
That's a good
front.
idea. That's a good idea.
And then you could steer it into a slot, a lot easier, a lot tighter turning radius because it would pivot on its own
I
axis
think Mike
rather
said
than
that basically the ball, it just rubbed inside of that ball, that steel ball. But you're right. If it had like a big bearing on it underneath it, like a big collar bearing or a big thrust bearing, then you'd be able to like sort of swivel it a lot nicer. It's a good
yeah,
idea.
because otherwise you're relying on this much bigger turning radius
Yeah.
between the
That's a good point.
wheels of the forklift and the back wheels of the Land Rover.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe I'm gonna look into that. Make a little
I haven't thought about this at all, but
make a little turntable-y ball. Yeah, because it's so quick for us to adjust the forks back and forth. It's amazing, actually. That's the nice
yeah,
feature.
that's a handy
Oh
feature.
man, it's
for
so
sure.
cool. I've never actually seen one I heard they existed, but I've never actually seen one. It's really great.
Mythical.
The mythical adjustable forks. Yeah, that's great.
Well, anyway, that's my 2 cents. If you were going to do that,
I
that's
think
what I would do.
that's on our docket is to do that, and then we've got a fuel pump to put into the Camel Trophy truck. That's come back now just the other day, so that's got to get a new fuel pump put in, and then we're waiting for 2 cars to come into the Port of Vancouver. We've got a high capacity 300 TDI pickup from our good friend Vlado, and our 2009 Puma is finally coming over to Canada to spend some time up there. So those 2 cars are coming to the Port of Vancouver very soon, and that 300 TDI pickup might sell it. I might sell it. I might not keep it. I am trying to decide.
Send me information. I like the cut of its jib.
It's a very cool car, man. It's a super neat truck. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll
There was-
keep it. I don't know.
Speaking of 300 TDI Land Rovers, and I might have already told you about this, I was driving down the road here in Springfield, Oregon the other day, and I drove past a workshop, and there was a trailer parked outside, and there were 3 Michelin XELs sitting on the trailer, and I was like, that's unusual. I wonder why those are there, because that's not a common tire
No.
here. They're not sold here. And so I kind of pulled in, and I noticed there was a workshop door open, and there was an exquisite 3-door 2009 110
Best year.
300 TDI, so rest of the world spec, beautiful condition. And the story that I got from the guy was that somebody drove it up from, I want to say Costa Rica,
Oh yeah.
possibly Belize.
Yeah.
And he had a place in Wyoming or Montana.
Okay.
Montana, I want
Yeah.
to say. And he got there and he passed away, sadly. And this vehicle sat on this property for like 13, 14 months, undriven. And the family was like getting rid of the property and selling everything off. And there was this car sitting there, which is in like new condition. and they were just like, get rid of it. And so this guy here in town bought it for like $0, like $5,000 or something.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice.
oh, that's a great deal.
But it hasn't met. There's like a legality threshold.
Of course,
there, right?
yeah. It's not imported.
So I guess they have a friend that has a place in Belize, so they're going to take it back down there.
Oh wow. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, it was kind of an interesting vehicle that you do not see here. Very uncommon.
That guy
Very
should just
uncommon
become an Oregon auto dealer and just put dealer plates on it and never worry about it.
Maybe you. There's a lot of thresholds to having a dealership
Worth
here in
the
Oregon. It has to
thousands
be,
and thousands of dollars to do that.
yeah, that's not an easy task. You have to have a building in the right zone.
Oh
You
yeah,
have
it's
to
a
have
huge
like
amount of work.
it's a lot of work to be a car dealer.
It
for
is
sure.
a huge amount of work. Yeah. All right. Well, at that, sounds like some fun stuff afoot. Hey, if you haven't popped over to the old Underpowered Hour YouTube, we encourage you to do so. Man, we're getting scarily close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and once we get there, then I don't know what happens. I think YouTube buys us a cake or something. They'll send us some cupcakes in the mail.
I think you get a cake.
I get a cake. I get a YouTube cake. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be delicious. Delicious YouTube cake. I can't wait. And so head on over there, check that out. If you haven't already been to the Anarch event this past weekend, it's too late because it's already happened. But Jenna and Liza were there as special luminaries. So look forward to next week's episode. We're going to have them on the show to talk about their illumination of the Midwest event up there in Minnesota, talking about stars and Land Rovers and Bob Steele and Jeff Aronson and the whole crowd. It's going to be great. And yeah, can't wait to get the full readout from them and how that event went. Sounds like a really fun time. And again, this Astro Bob or whatever his name is, which again, we think is just Bob Steele's astrology alter ego. So I'm looking really forward
his
to
telescope moniker.
Yeah, I can't wait to get the full rundown from them on that. So look forward to that episode next week. And until then, we'll see you next week.
All right. I'll see you on the trail.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.